Okay. Maseches Bava Kama, special Shiur Friday, one-off. Bava Kama Tzadi Amud Beis. We are a few lines after the beginning of the Gemara. Mai ha ano ha Rabi Yosef Glilu. The line starts with the word Mai. It's my Gemara. This year's Loyal Nishmas of Imoyri Menachem ben Akiva Rus Bas Shalom Salbas Moshe Lerefuas Rach Anoilad ben Tomo Besoch Shal Chol Yisrael Besoch Shal Pagei Yisrael. My ha ano ha Rabi Yosef Glili. What did he mean when Rabbi Hakudosh Rabbi Yehuda Anossi said to the person who smacked his friend in the ear or blew a Purim trumpet in his ear, and that caused him shame and embarrassment? So Rabbi Yehuda Anossi told him, there's me and there was Rabbi Yosef Glili, and because of that, you got to pay him, you know what kind of money? You got to pay him a money suri. The 100 zuzim you're going to pay, we're talking here about money suri. What? 8 times as much as Medina. Yeah. 1 second. Weiter. Frag the Gemara, my ho anoho Rabbi Yosef Glili. What does it mean? This is me and this is Rabbi Yosef Glili. Ilema. One suggestion is, this is what Rabbi told the aggressor. He told him like this: I saw you myself. I saw you smacking him. So don't tell me stories here. Rabbi Yosef Glili, the Omer Monetzuri, and I am halachically backed by Rabbi Yosef Glili, whom I quote, and he said that the monet should be paid, should be Monetzuri. And therefore, mister, you have no way out. Between me and Rabbi Yosef Glili, you are fried fish. Zil havle monetzuri. You got to pay monetzuri. So far, so good. Lememra. That is to say, if you interpret his words that way, you know it's going to come out. The ed nasa Dayan. Oh, that's a sugya that appears in Rosh Hashanah Daf Chavov. That appears in Sanhedrin. Don't remember where. And many in Bava Basra we saw it. Ed nasa Dayan. Ed nasa Dayan means as follows: if you're telling me that you, Rabbi Yehuda Anossi, you saw the incident happening, and you are the poisek also, you're the Dayan. Forget about numbers for a minute. For a second, please don't talk to me about numbers. Let's assume that there was another aide together with Rabbi Yehuda Anossi, and let's assume Rabbi Anossi had other Dayanim there too. Fine, numbers actually now don't make a difference. But the mere fact that Rabbi Yehuda Anossi was the aide, he saw it, and also he then officiated as a Dayan, is interesting. Well, in a goyish kind of cup, and not only goyish, actually Tosa says it makes sense to say, well, what can be better than that? Obviously, if usually a Dayan who has no idea about what happened listens to 2 very nice men and they're telling him a story, and the Dayan believes them, then he passes, well, if he sees it himself, all the more so, the more the better. Ain't it? We'll see this today. Shmiya, Re'iyah, should be better than Shmiya. Right? In other words, seeing is better than hearing. You saw it for yourself, so you can paskin. And is that what you're saying? Are you saying, Rabbi Yehuda Anossi, you were actually the aide, you witnessed it, and now you're the Dayan? Okay. The Tanya seems to be a brisa that does not really support what you're saying. Look at the following case. Sanhedrin, Shiro. This is very, very classical Gemara that appears many places. Sanhedrin, Shiro, Echad Jorgis Hanefesh. A Sanhedrin, how many are the Sanhedrin? 23 peoples, 23 Dayanim saw one person killing the other. In front of Beis Din, he killed his friend. Whoa, that's big news. Shoragis Hanefesh, he wants to make it in a very dramatic way. Yep, Shoragis Hanefesh. And then what do? Now they have to obviously, deal with it and deal with the law. Mikzason nasu edim. Now we're going to, I would say, split the cast, just like the Havdil. Children make a Purim party, or adults, the Purim show. Okay, I'll be a Cheshverosh, you'll be Haman, and she'll be Esther. So too, we have to split and decide that some people would be Eidim, some people would act as the Eidim. They all saw him. Before I continue, let me stop myself. I'm sorry for being a little bit jittery now. I'm saying, the word Ed, what does Ed mean? The Ed has to do 2 things. He has to know how to see well and how to speak well. First of all, the ed has to see what's going on. That's what you call in English to witness, right? And then he has to speak, which you call give testimony, right? That is, so aid has two, and that's very, very, very important to remember. It's not a chiddush. We just have to compartmentalize it in our minds. There's aid which saw, and there's aid that spoke. Just because I saw something happening doesn't mean I'll say it to Beis Din. I'm supposed to, but yeah, right? So now, all 23 Dayanim, and that's important to know, are potential aidim, right? All 23 Dayanim, they have good eyesight, Baruch Hashem, and they saw, no question, right in front of their eyes, Reuven taking a sword, a knife, and excuse the description, slashing his friend's throat, no question. They all saw it, so they're all potential aidim. Now, we're going to split. We're not going to say that, hey, I would have said, if that's Katibat Eichtal, you know what I would have said? Well, let's cut corners. Let's cut through, how do you say, red tape? Yeah? Let's just skip the whole Eidus part. Nobody needs Eidus. We saw it. Hey guys, did you just see what I saw? Yeah, you want to pinch me? We all saw it together, so let's just judge the guy. Why do we need Eidus? Well, apparently we don't say that. From some funny reason, we don't. Right? We'll see later in Tosfos why. And we say, no, now we're going to play the game. And we still have to have an Eidus given to the Yonim. That state cannot be skipped. Get me? In other words, you have to have Eidim giving Eidus to the Yonim. So now let's split people, and let's have, well, at least two of us, 23, giving Eidus to who? To the other Dayanim, even though they're not 23. And then we're going to sit together, and then, 1 minute. And then what happens, we'll see later. I'm stopping short now. I'm reading again. Sanhedrin shoro echad shorges hanefesh. Sanhedrin saw a person killing his friend. Miktzos nasu edim. Some of them should become edim, giving testimony. Miktzos nasu dayanin diva bitalfon. And some of the potential edim, yeah, they can become dayanim. Some of those people, well, 21 of them, right? They actually saw the incident and they're not talking about it. They're playing the role of dayanim. So a potential ed can become a dayan. A seeing ed, right? Many of them saw it, they all saw it, and some of them will play the role of listening to the friends who's saying it over to them. Okay? So an ed, a potential ed, can become a dayan. But the actual ed himself, the edim that spoke, they're not the dayanim. They cannot be dayanim. So now they have to join two other people from outer source and join the 23 people, and the two edim will give it in front of 23. Get me? That's how Tarfon works. Now, Rabi Akiva says, Kulam edim hem. Rabbi Akiva says, no. Once they saw it, they're contaminated. They're like disqualified from being dayanim. They are the highest dayanim in the world. They've been to all the best yeshivas in the world and all the dayanis courses. But because they saw it happening, so they are seeing edim, which I call potential edim. That means that there are now edim, and you can't play both roles. The en ed nasa dayan at all. In other words, what's machlokas of Tarfon and Rabbi Akiva? Rabbi Tarfon says the potential ed can become a dayan. He decides not to opt for speaking. He decides to be on the listening side. Rabbi Akiva says no. Once he saw it, mimela, he cannot become a dayan at all. So all 23 people, you know what they have to do? They'll have to go to a different Beis Din. This took place, the murder took place in Ramle, whatever. So then all 23, the Yonim of Ramle, or some of them, will have to go to be made to a Beis Din in Bet Shemesh, and there he'll be judged, or to a different Beis Din in Ramle. Usually there aren't two in the same city. Yeah, get me? In other words, because they saw Rabbi Akiva is more stark on ed nasa dayan at all, not even a potential ed cannot become a dayan. I'm sure you're asking why. Today it's very, there's big dichotomy today between the Bekias and the Iyun. I'm just reading the Gemara now, the facts, and the Tosfos will give us the whole explanation, as long as we have time. Adkan, now the Gemara is medaik from here. Now the Gemara is deriving something from the Rabbi Akiva Rabbi Tarfon Machlokas. Adkan lo kamal b'talfon, elad miktzos nasu edim, miktzos nasu dayonim. Rabbi Tarfon says some can become edim and some can become dayonim. They're all potential edim, and they all have Dayanus degree, right, diploma. So what should I opt? Well, I opt for Edus, and you opt for Dayanus. Each one a different course. Aval Ed Nasa Dayan, but somebody who actually saw it, and that person who saw it will become a Dayan, meaning a person himself who saw it, and there won't be any testimony at all to just say, okay, to skip the stage and just say, hey guys, we saw it happening. Who needs Edus at all? We saw it ourselves. Let's skip Edus. That loikoma, nobody says that. And excuse me, it sounds like that's exactly what's happening here with Rabbi Yehuda. Because what did Rabbi Yehuda say? Let's say Rabbi Yehuda was alone, for just for the sake of example. Rabbi Yehuda says, I saw this happening, and I'm asking, hey, where are the Edim? You, Rabbi Yehuda, you're supposed to be made in front of a different Dayan, and you're skipping a stage here. How could that be? Even Rabbi Tarfon, who's more lenient on cutting corners, he can't cut that much of red tape. There's a limit. Even Rabbi Tarfon says there has to be some kind of edus. He can't just say, well, I saw it myself, so I'm just telling you to pay 100 zuz because I don't like you. No such thing. That's a question. How can Rabbi Yehuda say that? Titaniahi answers the Gemara, no, you can't cut corners. Yes, you can. Yes, you can, Obama. Yes, you can. You can do what? You can skip the stage of edus and straight away done by what you saw yourself. Rabbi Tarfon says not like that. Answers the Gemara. Kitanya you know the story of those Edim who saw the guy murdering his friend? Kigon Shiro Balayla. They saw the incident, they saw the murder at night. Yeah, I guess most murders happened at night. And they saw it at night. For what? Explains the Gemara. At night, you cannot judge the night. Nighttime, in halacha, even din mominus, you cannot start judging by night. There's Gzeras HaKosov in Sanhedrin, by Yomi, you only do judgment by day and not by night. By night, you don't sit in Beis Din. It's a daytime, it's a day job, not a night job, yeah? Right? In some countries, they have night court, right? Not in Yiddishkeit, there's no such thing, yeah? So you have that. So what? I want to read Rashi, but before Rashi, I'll tell you the way I understand it, and then we'll see Rashi, and then we'll see Tosfos. Ho, ho, ho. Explains Rashi as follows. Be'emes, I could make her a din, and that's what we want to say. You can cut corners. If not always, but let's say in moments, in certain cases, we're suggesting here, yes, both Rab Tarfon, maybe even Rabi Akiva would agree that an aid, I'm not sure about Rabi Akiva, but Rab Tarfon would say, if a Dayan, a qualified Dayan, saw something happening in the street, he can say, okay, that was the Eidus. I saw it happening. I'm telling myself in my head, this is happening, and I'm judging. However, if you saw it at night, you cannot do that. Why? Because at night, you cannot accept Eidus. The first stage of din, and Tchilas din is not by night. To finish off the din by night is a question, maybe Memomenes you can, but to start the din, to start your court case by night is treif. That you never do. If he saw it happening by night, then, and his seeing is the Eidus, he's mentally accepting Eidus at night. That you cannot do. Therefore, if you wait for the morning, then you already have to what? Then you have to accept Eidus. Then you have to accept already a verbal Eidus. You miss the chance of seeing and right away judging, because your seeing already is frozen in the freezer, because you cannot start the din at night. Comes the morning, a whole new day, brand new day. You're sitting now in Beis Din to speak about last night's murder or last night somebody punching in the nose. Then, if that's the case, Rabbi Tarfon said, since you have to have a verbal edus, you cannot have edus re'iyah. Somebody has to start the court case. Starting the court case cannot be by seeing yesterday, because yesterday's vision was night vision. That doesn't work for Beis Din as edus. If somebody comes now to Beis Din and says, I saw this happening at night, that works. Mimele, you have to have some of the Dayanim playing the role of the Edim and saying verbally, we saw this happening last night. And so Mimele, we split and we say some people will be the Edim, some people will be the Dayanim. I'm repeating again. We're trying to suggest as follows. Really, Rabbi Yehuda Nossi was right. And yes, we can interpret Rabbi Yehuda Nossi's words as, hey, mister, I saw you and I'm judging you. Meaning, I saw you. I saw you is Eidus. I saw you, and I told myself in my own head, hey, this guy just punched his friend in the ear. He just embarrassed him in public in front of 10 people. I saw this. I am inside my hard drive. I'm now giving myself edus because it's daytime. In daytime, I can accept my edus, and right away judge you. Boom, finished. But the case of Rab Tarfon that required an actual Haggadah's edus, Rab Tarfon is not looking for bureaucracy. Rab Tarfon requires edus. You know why? Because it happens by night. It happened to be, it's a ukimta, big ukimta. Because the murder in the other case of the 23 people, Dayanim, was by night, you cannot start playing that game. You can't say, well, we just saw this happening, so we are now, you can't say we're now accepting the edus, and tomorrow we'll sit to judge. Because Kabbalah edus cannot be done by night. Since Kabbalah edus was delayed for the day, that's it. Now, it's not called, it says, you'll see Rashi soon, it's not called edus re'iyah, it's a different kettle of fish. It's edus shmiya. It's an edus now. That's it. Now the case is now 12 hours ago. It's a whole new sitting, a whole new hearing. That hearing has to be with edim. Where are the edim? Our own re'iyah is disqualified already because it was by night. Not disqualified to be given later, but it can't be the Kabbalah's edus. Kabbalah's edus by night cannot be done. We now have to do new Kabbalah's edus because it's a new day. Only by day can start the din. To have Kabbalah's edus, now you have to have edim coming and telling us. Rab Tarfon is mekel, and he says that some of the Dayanim that saw the case can serve as edim. Let Rashi say it better than me. It's a very darkest point. Let's see Rashi, Yakudoish. Says Rashi, Shra'u balayla. It's the third Rashi, Dibra Maschil from the Gemara's Rashi. From the Rashis of the Gemara. See the word Gemara? You see Monitzuri, Moni Medina, and then you have Sharo Balayla. Says Rashi Yakuda, Sharo Balayla. Ulamachros, the day later, tomorrow, Sheboin Lodu, they come to judge, Ein Donin El Al Pi Shmua. They're not done Al Pi Re'iyah, because the Re'iyah, they couldn't accept their own edus. That acceptance of what they themselves saw is disqualified. It's nighttime. Nighttime edus cannot be given. So now they have to listen to someone's edus. Okay, lefikach, so some of them have to be made because we have to have Kabbalah's edus. The im ein sham ela gimel. If you only have 3 people there, which means if you have only 3 dayanim there, you have to have what? You have to have enough dayanim to actually do Kabbalah's edus. The 2 people will be giving edus to more people, but conceptually, potential edim can be dayanim according to Rab Tarfon. Well, Rabi Akiva would say not even that. Rabi Akiva says, no way, you saw something, you can't be the Dayan. We'll see why in Tosfos. In other words, all 23 people, some of you now are going to have a nice tiyul in the train to Bet Shemesh, to Yerushalayim, you go to a different base and give your edus there. Reasons later. Aval, I'm still in Rashi, aval lo bayoim, but here comes a big bomb of Bechidush. If the Yomi really saw it by daytime, oisin al pi hariyah. Yes, they can right away act upon seeing. Rabi Tarfon. Oh, sorry, that's Rabi Tarfon. Okay, not Rabi Akiva miyad. Rabbi Yehuda nosik Rabi Tarfon svirale. Not Rabbi Akiva. Yeah, I corrected myself quickly. In other words, Rabi Tarfon would enochinami say that if it's daytime and I'm allowed to accept edus by day, I accepted my own edus. I'm not stupid. In other words, I saw. And I process it in my mind. That's called Kabbalah Seidus by day. And I judge. Finished. And in a Chinami, that's what to be. I don't know if they did. I don't know. Yeah. No. Oh, we are taking Rab Tarfon to an extreme. And Rab Tarfon basically, according to this, believes Ed can be a Dayan. Yes, and a Chinami. Welcome to the answer. Although I'm saying, and the other answer is the Gemara later on. So the accepted opinion, which is true, is ein ed nasadayan and chanami. Here we want to suggest Rav Tarfon holds yes nasadayan. Elamad, there's a technical problem of Kabbalah status by night. And chanami, yes, we're now radically saying the Rav Tarfon holds ed nasadayan. Yes. I don't have time for Taisus, but we'll start Taisus. Okay. Why can't you just say we have there is a question of each name Eden? Oh, Rabbeinu. Oh.
In itself is a testimony. It has to come from the mouth. I don't care about
That's what you hold. You are a very nice follower of Rabi Akiva.
But I'm saying, how do
Give
you
me
get,
A, give me
what do you do
K.
with Al Pishnei?
Al Pishnai Medim. That's called Al Pishnai Medim. Rabbi Tarfon will tell you. I saying P. I go to Kasha. I go to Kasha. Rek, the rabbi from Cherry Hill, you saying Al P maybe Xeris Akostu. Lapuki sings. I hear soccer. The truth is, I have no answer, but very nice. I'm not trying to, whitewash you, so I hear you. I have a lot of homework for Shabbos. Mommy, I have homework. I have homework for your question yesterday. But however, before I do my homework, either today or on Sunday, because it's getting late a little bit, we'll go through Tosfos, okay? And after Tosfos, I'll believe you'll be much clearer, because Tosfos gives you like 4 different reasons, but in Dayan. So you'll find yourself somewhere over there. If not, we'll discuss it later. Although, yeah, go ahead. No, there are Shnai. No, we choose 2 out of 23. That's the Chulam. That's what you're talking. You're asking a question, Yaakov Gitzkin is asking a question about a straw. Doesn't that sound to be all spontaneous and ad hoc? My answer is, for punching and slapping, you did not need a straw. How do I know? I tell you how. Because when we talk about a person who's supposed to be executed, when you talk about capital punishment, a straw is a very big thing. However, when it comes to what? When it comes to punching someone, since you hide even the shoygeg, even the accident, even by oines, because we say, oh, the muad la'olam, there's no straw. Obviously, a straw means that you want to make sure that the person knows what he's doing. A big sugi and Sanhedrin, a Talmid Chacham, according to some opinions, does not need a straw. Why not? Because he knows his stuff. The guy just gave you a shiur about Hilchas Shabbos, big Talmid Chacham, and then in the middle of Shabbos, take out his cigarette. Oy vey, the worst off the derech case all over the internet. Yeah, he gave a shiur in Hilchas Shabbos, then took out the cigarette. So then he doesn't need a straw because he knows the halacha. A straw, lefi some people in the Gemara, is just a way to make sure that the guy is really mazed. But in the case, if the guy's chayiv on punching and kicking, even though he's a very big shogig, even if he's asleep sometimes, Nimail, of course, he doesn't need the straw. That's your answer, and that's clear. The whole point of shoygeg is only by retzicha. I mean, when it comes to bodily harm. When it comes to punching and kicking, no, even shoygeg is chayiv. You have to be responsible for what you do, even if you can claim I wasn't aware. No, you can't claim that. Okay, so that's your answer. Your answer is a post-Tosis answer. I apologize, but we're not going to do Tosis today as opposed to what I thought we would. Not your fault. I know the shiur started a little bit late because Shachris finished late, but it's a very, very busy Friday for me. And thank you very, very much for coming. A little bit, but we got the big yesodis of Enid Dayan. We'll repeat it on Sunday, shtickle, review, and go to Tosis as much as we can. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Bava Kama, Daf Sadi Amud Beis. We are officially in the Tosfos. We're doing Tosfos today, even though we don't do Tosfos every day, to say the least. Today we're going to do Tosfos Kegon Sherauha Balayla. We need a lot of introduction here because we actually saw the sugi on Friday and not everybody was here. The story is as follows. We have a case in which Eidim, the Dayanim, the people who are certified, the people are, please, we started. Okay, thank you. The people who are Dayanim, they saw something happening. They saw a murder case, they saw somebody lo aleinu killing his friend, and then the question goes, can those, he killed his friend, his ex-friend, and then we see that the Dayanim themselves, the question is, they witnessed what went on, right? They saw what went on. Can they now be the Dayanim? Can they skip the stage? There are a few questions here. Question number one, can they actually skip the stage of receiving Eidus and say, well, we saw it happening. So if we saw it happening, then we don't need anybody else to tell us that it happened. We saw it for ourselves. And seeing is better than hearing. That's one way of looking at it, okay? Or do we say, no, maybe there is a Xeris HaKosuv that you always have to have Eidim and then Dayanim. Yeah, in other words, do you maybe possibly split into two groups? And this is what Rabbi Tarfon said. Rabbi Tarfon and Rabi Akiva. Rabbi Tarfon says, Eidim shogu es hanefesh. Dayanim shoro echad shogu es hanefesh. The Eidim saw someone that killed his friend. Then, what do we say? Some of them will be the Eidim. Let's say two of them will be the Eidim. The other one will be the Dayanim, and we'll have to add more Dayanim, extra two, to be on the Dayanim team, and two Eidim will be made in front of the Dayanim, and that's the way it's going to work. That's what seems to be Rabbi Tarfon's case. And Rabbi Akiva says no. In other words, Rabbi Tarfon seems to be saying that we have to have Eidim and Dayanim. Rabbi Akiva says is even more machmir. Rabbi Akiva separates the powers of Eidim and Dayanim. He separates when you cast the actors in the show, he's more machmir, Rabbi Akiva, and he says no. Eidim haroim, Eidim who saw, since those very same Dayanim are the ones who saw the case, they cannot even act as what? They cannot act as Eidim. They cannot act as Dayanim, excuse me. Because they are what I call potential Eidim, because they are Eidim who saw what's happening, that, from reason we'll see in Tosis, disqualifies them from being Dayanim. They are apostle, treif, for being Dayanim on that case. And now all these Dayanim, or some of them, should become Eidim and go to a different Beis Din. Yeah, in other words, if this is taking place in Ramle, and those people saw one guy killing his good friend, yeah, so then because they saw it, they cannot officiate at all as Dayanim on this case, and therefore they'll have to go and be made and testify in front of another Beis Din. So, but the question is, so to say that, to skip the stage completely and say, hey, we saw the murder happening, that's cool, not so cool, it's not so nice. Now we can actually judge him straight away. That, it seems to be saying, that we say is impossible. But the Gemara asks the question, how did this whole sugya came to our story in the Choyvel? We don't talk about the murder here. Murder was Sanhedrin. Yeah, what's the story? We saw that Rabbi Anosi told the person who punched his friend in the ear, he told him, there is me, and there is Rabbi Glili, and because of that, you're going to pay monet suri. You're going to pay 100 expensive, 100, which is really 800, 100, not 100 ruble, 100, yeah, pounds, 100 fancy ones, 8. What does it mean, me and Rabbi Glili? So the Gemara wanted to say, I saw it happening, because I saw this happening, and Rabbi Glili, who already was nifter, basically the paskins, you have to pay tsuri. I am the one who saw you, and as you said to me, Ellen, I assume that there was another person with Rabbi Glili. I saw you, and I'm telling you now, you have to pay him 100. Sounds like Rabbi Glili is cutting through red tape. Rabbi Glili says, okay, I saw you myself. I don't need to hear it from other people. I know it myself, and my friend knows it. Memela, I can judge you. Maybe there was another person, a Dayan, maybe it was Yochid Mumche. One person sometimes can also judge if it's very great. Maisa, I'm the Ed, I'm the Dayan. Who Ed, who Dayan, who Amuchiach, as we say about the Kodesh Baruch Hu. So it seems like Rabbi Yehuda Anosi is more lenient than both Rabbi Tarfon and Rabbi Akiva. Answers the Gemara. And here we're going to start to soon. The Gemara says a very, very interesting, deep idea. The idea is as follows. Really, Rabbi Tarfon believes you can cut through red tape. Wow. We're going to get to your question too, Tzvi. Rabbi Tarfon says as follows. Rabbi Tarfon says, even Rabbi Tarfon would agree that sometimes you can cut through the Eidus and skip the Eidus. What do you mean skip the Eidus? If the Dayanim saw by day, there's one halacha, and if they saw it by night, it's a different halacha. If the Dayan saw it by daytime, you're supposed to do mishpat. Day is a time of din. D and D, day and din. Okay, din a day. You can do a din by day, but by night, no. Night is not a time when you can start accepting edus or doing anything else. And therefore, if the Dayanim saw it by day, which means the Dayanim saw what's happening 3 o'clock in the afternoon, one guy picking the knife and whatever, cutting his friend's throat. I don't get more graphic. And that happened by day. The Dayanim now start the din. You know what's the din? In our own mind, the wheels are turning. We are accepting our own edus. We just saw. We're processing it in our minds, like our brain says, like, be kind of I killed him. Did you see what I saw? Yeah. And therefore, the din started by day. They don't need to hear anybody else's edus. They saw their own edus, as we're going to see very soon in Tosfos, because lo te'eshmiya gdoila mireia. Yeah. In other words, listening, which the Torah recommends, you should listen to an aid. Well, seeing is better than listening. We saw it ourselves, and therefore we can cut through. But if they saw it by night, what's the difference if they saw it by night? We're going to see it in Tosfos. By night is different. By night, you're not allowed to accept edus. You're not allowed to start. You're not allowed to begin a court case in halacha. You may finish it by night, sometimes by momentus, but you can't start a court case by night. As urgent as it may be, you can't start it by night. Maybe emergency cases, I don't know. You can't start it by night. And therefore, if they saw the event by night, this is beginning the din, because they're accepting their own edus at night. The morning later, they can't just say, okay, hi, good morning, everybody. 9 o'clock in the morning, Beis Din gets to work. Hi, guys, let's put on our talis and start the din. And we're basing ourselves on what? On the edus we saw yesterday. No, you can't say yesterday was the edus. That means that the court case, the din started by night. That ain't working. That doesn't work. And since, anyway, we are not relying on our own re'iyah, because we can't start the court case, we have to have now the process of somebody telling somebody else, because re'iyah alone just not working now, because it was by night. In Mela, now those Dayanim should go to a different Beis Din and be made over there according to Rabi Akiva, or according to Rabbi Tarfon, they split, and two of them will be made what they saw by night. Don't get it wrong, by the way. Edus of night works, obviously. Unfortunately, many murders and thefts, or even loans, or even kiddushin, or many things happen by night. Edus of night is good, because I'm scared people will ask it. Edus by night is fine, as long as you put it in a box, in your window, in your mind, and tomorrow you say it to Beis Din. But saying is involved. Edus by night, close the compartment. Okay, I saw the edus, it's in a box in my mind, in my mouth. Tomorrow, I'm going to go to Beis Din and say to someone. Once you have to say to someone, both Rabbi Tarfon and Rabi Akiva say you can't, you have to say it. Rabbi Tarfon says we'll split the cast into two. You're Chashverosh and I'm Haman. You are the aid and I'm the Dayan. Two are the aidim and the rest are the Yonim. And Rabbi Akiva says no. Rabbi Akiva is more makmir, and Rabbi Akiva says no. And aid not a Dayan at all. And therefore, out of these 23 people, two of them at least will have to go to a different Beis Din in Nahariya, a different place, and and give the edus to different edim, to different dayanim. So you ask your question, which we'll deal with soon. And first of all, the question is why? What's the whole business of having to have edim and dayanim? Why can't we always cut through the whole story? Says Tosfos, Kigon Sherua Balayla. Today's a day to see Tosfos. Let's go. In honor of Purim, we do something different. Imra Bayom. If they saw it by day, it's the first Tosfos. There's one. Actually, it's almost only one Tosfos the whole page. Imra Bayom. If they saw the event by day, then they don't have to listen to anybody. They judge according to what they saw. Listening is not more than seeing. In other words, if the Torah says you listen to the Eidim, well, here I see it for myself. That's a Pashta Svara. Lahavdil, Tim McKenzie would know that too. But if they saw it by night, they can't start judging straight away in the morning based on what they themselves saw by night. Why not? The Re'iyah Kekabolas Eidus. Seeing, you're not just looking at something, eating your popcorn because it's interesting. When you see it as a Dayan, you see it and you process it in your mind and you say, okay, now I accepted Eidus. I accepted my own Eidus by seeing. I'm witnessing and I made. The Kabbalah's Eidus, Ketchilas Din. Kabbalah's Eidus is like starting the court case. Ketchilas Din bayoim. To start the din, you can only do by day. Afilu b'dinim ominous, even by money. You know that by money we're much more lenient than by dinim of the foshes, of capital punishment. Even by ominous, you don't start din by night. You don't prepare kech dinim ominous. Hilkach, second narrow line. Tzrichin lachzor lo'id bayoim. They have to already verbalize and say it by day. They can't just, what they saw yesterday is only good enough as seeing, not as seeing and processing as the edus. That stage cannot happen by night. Now they have to say it. You have to say it. You have to be made and testify. The kevan shetzichin lo'id and a maid nasa dayan. Once they actually have to say it over, the me'id, the person who actually says it over, cannot also be the dayan. Right? There are very funny shows like with children and others. You know, the same person acts as both people. Very kind and cute. Hi, Shuman. Yes, Reuven. That's very cute when it's in a kids show. The same person does both things. When it comes to Beis Din, it's not a funny joke. And halacha, from some reason, we'll see later, says no. If once you already testify, you say over, you can't say, I'm saying it. Let's say there are two people. They say it over to 21 people. By the way, many Achronim say that to accept the Edus, 3 people are enough, not 23. Yeah, 3 people accept it, or even 21 people accept it. Then we're going to go, look, I'm sorry for the Zoom viewers. Yeah, the 2 people are made in front of 21. We're made, and we are the biggest done in the world, made to 21 people. Then we're going to sit together with the other 21 and judge. That doesn't work. The person who stood as an aide to later on sit as a Dayan together with the other Dayanim, that ain't working. That doesn't work in halacha. And aid nasa Dayan. And hameid nasa Dayan, what I call an active aid that actually spoke already, he acted as an aid, he cannot be a Dayan. Can be a Dayan for many, many, many cases, not for this case. Okay, aval and haroye. But let's say there's an aid which I call potential, the aid that witnessed. He happened to see it. He happened to be seeing it. She'en made. Let's say he's not made. He's not acting as an aid. He just saw it. Higon shesh edim acherim. Let's say the other edim me'idin lifneim. Other edim are there. He's an aid. He happened to see the case. He saw the case of the murder, but he's not acting upon it. He's not saying it to Beis Din. The other people who act that nasa dayan afil b'din nefoshes. He can be dayan even b'din nefoshes. We are skipping a little bit. That's the opinion of, now we have to go to the line. In other words, yeah, a person who only saw it can become a dayan. As we said before, so far, by the way, everything Tosa said is things we saw last week, and I said it also at the beginning. Now we're going to come to the reason. Well, Rabi Akiva, you have to skip a few lines because you're arguing now a different reason. It's not so nogea. Skip a few lines. Line starts with the word edim. There are 2 lines. One starts with lehoid, then edim. And at the end of the line, it says ul Rabi Akiva. You have it? Ul Rabi Akiva. Towards the end of the line, it says ul Rabi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva is more machmir. Afilu ed roye ein nasedayin bedine nefoshes. Oh, kede mashma ocho, as we see over here, which means now we see Rabbi Akiva says no. Even if you saw it, let's summarize Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Tarfon. Rabbi Tarfon said, both Rabbi Tarfon and Rabbi Akiva believe en eid nasa dayan. An eid cannot be a dayan. We're very machmir test over here in the Purim show. It's not Purim, it's serious. You can't have 2 kids playing the same, acting the same role, or 2 roles. 1 kid acting 2 roles. What does that mean? It means like this. According to Rabbi Tarfon, if you saw it only, everybody saw it. 23 Dayanim saw it. They can split and cast 2 different groups. 2 will be the talking Eidim, and 21 will be the Dayanim. And they'll have to add another 2. But not them, not the speakers. Once you spoke, though, says Rabbi Tarfon, an active aid who spoke, Hameid, who actually spoke, he cannot be a Dayan anymore. You'll have to bring 2 other Dayanim. 2 are talking. 2 out of 23. You have 21. You have to add 2 other Dayanim. You have to import them from Dimona. And they'll be in the basin. But once you spoke, you're disqualified from being an aid, from being a Dayan. Rabbi Akiva is even more machmir. What does Rabbi Akiva say? Rabbi Akiva says no. Even a passive aid, ed haroye, the aid who witnessed it and he saw what's going on, such an aid is already disqualified from being a Dayan in the nefoshes. When it comes to the nefoshes, he's disqualified. He's disqualified from that. Once you saw it, you can't be a judge on that. You can only be an aid, and all 23 are disqualified from being Dayanim. You all saw it happening? You all have to, or some of you will have to go to a different Beis Din in Renana, and over there you give your testimony to the other Beis Din of 23. The question is, why? The time. Finally we come to the reason. There are 4 reasons which are really, or 5 reasons, 2 and 3. The time can the fast by Perk Beis Demakos. The reason is like Perk Beis Demakos. Soon we're coming, Tzvi. Rabi Akiva says, Minayin leSanhedrin joro be'echad joroges hanefesh. Sanhedrin saw somebody killing his very close friend. She'en memisin oisoi miyad. How do you know you don't kill him straight away? Well, we saw it. We saw it happening right away. We saw it ourselves. Kill him. Ad sheyamud bebeis din. How do you know that he has to be oimed in a different beis din? Meaning there has to be a process. You cannot skip the stage of them, being them talking. Somebody as an aide telling the dayanim. Well, how do you know you need that stage? Talmud loymar ad omdoi lifnei ha'eid al mishpat. It says in the Bible, in the Old Testament, ad omdoi lifnei ha'eid al mishpat. He has to stand in front of the Eida. Eida are the dayanim to be judged. He has to be properly judged without cutting corners. Yeah, he has to be judged by Eidim who talk to the dayanim. Gzeres hakosov, says Roshbam. Ad sheyamud bebeis din acher. There has to be another beis din. Another beis din meaning not the ones who saw him. It sounds like it's gzeres hakosov. I mean, to me, it makes sense. Maybe you don't want to rush things, maybe, but this doesn't say. That's my own understanding. The Roshbam says in a different Masechta, and Bava Kama, I think that it's gzeres hakosov. Veim toima. Now, question of Toises, and here we come to a very juicy svara. There are going to be some very gishmaki svaras here. Correct Toises. So again, let's summarize. How is it that according to Rabi Akiva, an aide that saw cannot, when it comes to nefashos, to capital punishment, we see what? Capital punishment, everyone, I mean, Rabi Akiva for sure says that once the aidim saw, they cannot be the Dayan. Why? No. You can't cut corners. You have to have aides speaking to a Dayan, to a different Dayan. Okay, there's a cost of ad omdoi lifnei ha'eda. He has to stand in front of the dayanim, and the aidim have to stand in front of dayanim. Veim toima. Correct Toises, is that your only source? It says in the perek of the third, I think, perek of Rosh Hashanah, Ru Beis Din, it says Mefarish time. Over there, by the way, the Mishnah Rosh Hashanah, the Mishnah Daf Chafei Amud Beis in Rosh Hashanah, speaks about 8 Beis Din who saw the new moon. Everybody knows the whole story, right? The new moon, you have to have 2 Eidim coming from the end of the country. Well, what happens if the Dayanim themselves, they saw the new moon themselves? Do they still have to have Eidim coming? Or can they split into 2 groups like over here? Same question. So over there, it sounds like the Mishnah does say they can split. 2 of them, can give the Eidus, we saw the moon, to a third Dayan and other 2 that stand there. So why? Why does it work over there? Ed Nasa Dayan, says the Gemara. And back to Toises, Mefarish timer. Line starts with Mefarish timer. You know, it's V'shoftu Eida. That's a famous line that tells you that we want to be very, very gentle and lenient with who? With somebody who is about to be executed. Yeah, we're being very careful. The Hetzilu Ha'eda. Beis Din have to make sure that his life is saved. That although he's about to be executed, let's play it safe. Once in 70 years. So now, because the Dayanim themselves saw him killing, they don't see any reason, any tzad to be mekel. They're not going to see any benefit of the doubt. When the Dayan listens to the aid, that's a bit of a mitigating matzav. The Dayan sits there, he didn't see anything, he didn't see it happening. He's listening to 2 very nice, good Jews, not Gdolei Hador. He sees 2 kosher Jews who don't shave with a razor and who, I don't know, don't have TV, whatever, good people. Yeah, he sees them, the 2 Dayanim. What about that? 2 Eidim, excuse me. They see him as here's the Eidus. So he says, maybe yes, maybe no. Okay, maybe that's not him to be mekel. Maybe his mommy didn't feed him the right kind of pizza. Very traumatic. I'm joking. Yeah, there are reasons to be mekel. But if the Dayan himself saw it happening, he saw the blood. He saw the murder in his eyes. He saw the knife going through. He doesn't have it sad to be mekel. So Tim McKenzie would say, very good, do judgment. We say no. We say because we're trying to be more balanced and be more distant from what was happening really, it's better that when it comes to nefashos, that the dayanim are not the eidim. You saw too much. You know too much. You're too emotionally involved when you saw it happening, actually, funnily enough. And therefore, you don't have the tzad zchus, you're disqualified from being a dayan. But the question is, of Toises, that's the question now. Beautiful idea. That's a Gemara, by the way. That's a Gemara, not Toises. So for Toises, Is it Gzeres HaKosuv? Or is it this nice, beautiful svar, which was said now, that you have to be a bit, taking 2 steps backwards? Is it a pasuk, or is it a very nice svara? What's going on over here? Veyesh loimar, answer this is very easily. Daid the makois ikar. The source of makos Gzeres HaKosuv is good enough for us. Gzeres HaKosuv, we are good yidden, we're not looking for svaras. Gzeres HaKosuv, there has to be a process when it comes to nefashos of Eidim and Dayanim. That's the process. Yeah. Have you ever been to government office anywhere in the world? That's the process you have to go through, right? You can't cut court. Lahavdil, yeah? There's a process, there's procedure, there's Eidim and Dayanim. So why do you also have to come to the svara of what we just said now, that the Dayan shouldn't be too emotionally involved because he saw it happening? Yeshloimar, Daidamakas Ikar. The real it's Gzeres HaKosuv. Aval Rosh Hashanah, in Gemara Rosh Hashanah, when we spoke about the emotional idea here, Bale Faresh comes to explain the loy gamrinan mina, the shani din nefashos. We don't learn from it to money. It only applies to nefashos. The ba'inan vetzilo ha'eda, full stop, which means very nice. Really, it's Gzeres HaKosuv. But maybe the same thing would be with money. Money. Let's say one guy. Let's say the dayanim. Let's make 3 dayanim. We don't need 23 for money. 3 choshev dayanim. So Reuven stealing from Shimon. They saw the mamish stealing from his pocket, middle of the night. So now, are they disqualified from being dayanim? No. Why not? They're emotionally involved. They can't see kapschus. No. The Gzeres HaKosuv that they have to have Eidim and Dayanim comes the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah to limit it and tell me it only applies to din and nefashos. Why? Because we're only being cutesy-putesy Californian, Tel Avivian, and being very nice to the guy when it comes to nefashos. When it comes to money, we're not being so nice. When it comes to money, we do justice, funnily enough. I know it sounds like the other way around. Because money, nobody's life is at risk, right? In Mela, there's no hetzilo ha'eda when the guy is supposed to pay him a few thousands or even million. We do regular judgment. We do regular din. And therefore, there, we do apply the svara. If the 3 dayanim saw, and it happened by daytime, and they saw it happening, they saw Reuben stealing from Shimon, then we do not have to then we can cut corners. Then we don't have to say that they have to be made to a different beis din. They saw it themselves, they processed in their minds. Did you see what I saw? Yeah. We saw their own good eyes, their very good eyesight. They saw Reuben half a meter away from them stealing from Shimon. They don't have to have the process. Why? Because we don't have the shaftei, the we don't have the business of trying to be more distant and try to be more, cool about it and more, aloof and trying to see both sides. No, we don't have to see both sides as much. Of course, we have to be fair. But if we saw it happening, for moments it's good enough for us. As long as that's what Tosfos says. Okay, I want to answer. We have to skip now 3 more lines. It says, but the Rabbanon doesn't apply, etc. The time Dayan Hamed starts with the word Hamed. We still have another bunch of reasons here. 1 minute, please. Tzvi Rosen's been waiting very patiently. He asked his question on Friday. If you ever been to the store and the guy comes in and he says, I was here before, right? Half an hour before he was in the queue, in the line. So now he has to cut through because he's been here before. So really he's before you. What? Right. Right. His trolley was here for half an hour. We're in the supermarket. So he, of course, he's big. Now, so Tzvi asked the question, how come you can, but we all believe that sometimes you can cut through corners, right? Sometimes if it all happened by day, let's say, you said, we saw it, Lo teshmiya gdol Maria, right? And everything is good. And we can actually start straight away. Correct? It says, Al Pishnaim Eidi. Al Pishnaim Eidi means by the mouth. P is mouth. Maybe Pishnaim Eidi means that we always have to have Eidim saying stuff to the Dayanim. There has to be mouth. There has to be word of mouth and Dayanim. And here we see that everyone believes that sometimes you can cut corners and actually have their own Re'iyah, relying on their own Re'iyah. The answer is as follows. It's a good question because the Gemara does say in Sanhedrin, Pishnaim Eidim, it has to be by the mouth of the Eidim and not by the Eidim writing. Please don't tell me what's happening in Goyish court because it's going to take a long time. But I'm telling you one thing. In Halacha, if the Eidim write down their Eidus, they can't come to Beis Din. Can they email Beis Din? Can they WhatsApp Beis Din? Can they write a nice old letter, old style letter to Beis Din and show it to Beis Din? No. Pishnai Medim has to be by the mouth, okay? And Al Pishnai Medim will all be this and that, not women, not other things. But, Tzvi, if you need Eidim, yeah, the Eidim have to speak and not, or not the translator. Translator. Many things get lost in translation, and you can see that there's a cause of even a very professional translator, yeah, she or he cannot come to Beis Din present, which is done by Goyim all the time, yeah? You can't have a guy who speaks Swahili, and then the translator will translate it to the Beis Din for Norwegian. Doesn't work like that in halacha. Pishnai Eidim, however, that means when you have Eidim, the Eidim's mouth is the only organ that can work for them, their own mouth, not writing, not translation. But it doesn't mean that the only thing is Pishnai Eidim. You understand? It's not come to exclude, it's like a mitzvah kumis versus chiyuvis. It's a halacha of how do you wash your hands? If you have bread and you wash your hands, you have to have this, and that, and revis and all that. I don't want to wash my hands the whole week, 6 days of week, 6 days out of 7. I don't wash my hands because I don't eat bread. Get me? Al Pishnai Eidim is if you have Eidim. That's how the Gemara views it. But it's not necessarily telling you that the Eidim are the only thing. Why not? If Shmiya of the Eidim is good enough, then seeing is even better sometimes, although there are many exceptions to the rule. But that's I think, the answer to your question. I can hear one question now. I'm not starting a round of questions because we are behind anyways, but yeah, go ahead. If it's, yeah. By the way, you guys can already start looking at the words, V'tam Dayan and Me'id Nasa Dayan. Okay, go ahead. Hamed, that's the next line. And Hamed Nasa Dayan, and I'm listening to you. Yes. Of course, V'tam Dayan and Me'id Nasa Dayan. Let's summarize. Eid Nasa Dayan is the machloitis. A person who saw with his eyes, according to Rabi Akiva, you're disqualified for dinei nefashos. You're too involved in it. You saw too much. Rabbi Tarfon says no. Rabbi Tarfon doesn't learn exegros. He learns different psukim. He doesn't believe in that. But everyone believes that in a maid Nasa Dayan. What's a maid? If once you opted to be the aid, once we split the group into two, and you are the maid, you are the one actively made for whichever reason, you can't be a Dayan anymore. Why not? Why can the guy who's made, who's talking, and he saw the event, even according to Rabbi Tarfon, who's not concerned about involvement or about the psukim, here's a consensus that for sure once you spoke, you can't then afterwards sit in the chair in the other part of the play and be the Dayan. Why not? Because those people believe Ed Nasa Dayan. So why is the maid not Nasa Dayan? Why isn't the person who spoke cannot be a Dayan afterwards? Yesh mefoshim. Well, we're going to see 2 or 3 reasons here. Shum davel edus shena teochel hazima. Ay, cool. Look at that. Every edus in the world, in order to be kosher, has to be, it's a very nice English word, which is in Oxford Dictionary, muzamable. I made it up. Muzamable. In other words, every edus has to have the ability potentially to be muzam. In other words, if there's an edus, which is, let's say, too vague, I don't know exactly the date, an edus, let's say Reuben and Shimon come and say edus is somebody killed. If that edus, for whichever reason, cannot be muzam, you know what muzam is, right? That you can't have the other 2 people saying you were with us at the same time in Haifa, yeah? Such an edus is not an edus. Every day, edus has to have the potential to be coupled, to be thrown to the garbage, potentially. Yeah, that's how the game works. And if so, listen to this. The kevan shuatzmo ed vedayan. If the person himself is both ed and then dayan upon his own edus, lo yikabel azomo ala atzmoi. He's not going to accept azomo on himself. He's the dayan, and he was also the aid. The same Reuben and Shimon are aidim. Then they sit and they play the dayanim role, and then Yehuda and Binyamin come and say imonu ha'isam. The dayanim are not going to accept it, and they're for sure not objective. They're telling the dayanim, you, the dayanim / aidim. When you played Eidim, you said that he murdered in the Shemesh last Sunday. He was in Chayfel. You were in Chayfel last Sunday. So the Dayanim will say, let's take a coffee break. The Dayanim are not going to accept it. And even if they would, they can't accept it because it's an edus about themselves. Even if the Yashar people are not going to say a coffee break, even if they break into tears, they can't because they can't accept an edus on themselves. A Dayan cannot accept an edus on himself. You, Mr. Dayan, you're a liar. You stole. You threw garbage. Yeah, you can't. Why? Because he's a Dayan. Cool. Get it? In other words, that's the reason why Ednas a Dayan, because again, there's too much involvement here. However, and I think I'll stop soon. However, Baltam ze kosher. We'll do one more question and that's it. I have a chart, by the way, Sikum, that has more than Toysfes if you want. At times, the Koshel Ari d'Orléans, the Reef from Orléans, asks a question about what we just said. You're telling me an aid cannot be a Dayan because the Dayan is not objective about himself. Nobody can come and tell the Dayan, excuse me, Mr. Dayan, Mr. Dayan, Rabbi Dayan, when you're 18, you were liars. We with us can't do that. So the aidus is possible. Sometimes the kosher Ridolan. Ridolan is asking a question. What about an aid that's related to the Dayan? Let's say the Dayan's name is Pachachovsky, and the aid is Pachachovsky. Is the aid disqualified? No. We didn't find such a thing in halacha. A relative cannot be an aid or a Dayan of the accused, of the plaintiff, the accused. But the aid and the Dayan themselves can be related. We believe that objective that can be. But according to you, they can't be aidim, the relatives of the Dayanim. The Havilei, Eidus Sheetechol Azima, same thing, because the Dayan cannot accept Eidus against his own relative. You can't tell the Dayan, your son and your nephew or whoever was here, they spoke about Reuben, they're liars. Your son's a liar, Mr. Dayan. He was in Haifa drinking coffee with me. No, you can't do that because you can't accept an Eidus as his own son either. El al kochav, therefore says, so why does it work? Why do we say that a relative can be the aid for a Dayan and an aid can be related? He can be mazim them in a different beis din. There is an easy solution. Really, an aid who was a Dayan could have been very good. I want to disqualify the aid and in front of this Dayan. No, I'll disqualify him against a different Dayan in a beis din in Rehovot, in a different beis din. That can be done. Yes, it can be amazing. Start a new court case against the Eidim Dayanim of the Chemish, or the same thing, yeah, in a different beis din Rehovot to Dayanim. We're not related to them, nothing to do with them. Therefore, we say an Eid Nasa Dayan, but that cannot be the reason. That cannot be the reason. It's not because it can't be Eidush Shetachol Azima, because it can be Mezimit in a different beis din, in front of different Dayanim. Just quickly, the last reason. It says against Zeres HaKosuv, two people have to stand in front of other people. Shvus Elu HaEdim, Shnei HaNoshim, two people are Edim, have to stand Lifnei Hashem, Elu Dayanim. They have to stand in front of Hashem, which is the Dayanim. Mash Mushem do Edim Lifnei Dayanim. Velo Shiur Edim Ba'atzmam Yeshvim Bedonim. In other words, Zeres HaKosuv again, it says in the Torah, Edim and Dayanim. Edim that spoke, they cannot be Dayanim anymore. Why? Because Hashem said so. So there's another reason which I'm not going into. I think the Olam made enough of Tosfos at this point, although I wrote it down, and I hope, if I manage, if I have time, Erev Purim, I hope to make it nice and in English, also in Hebrew. Another problem. So I hope to send it to you, but I'm not sure. So let's summarize. I'll hear you. I promise I'll hear your question. Let's summarize. So Eidim that actually. So, Rabi Akiva. What happens if you have a group of Eidim who saw something by night? They saw something by night, night vision. They have good night vision, and they saw murder happening. The guy hit and killed his friend. What do we say? Nobody says you can do the Eidus by night and it's the din by night. There's no such thing as din by night. That's out of the question. What happens in the morning after? The morning after, if they saw it by night, so that's only Eidus. You can't just say, okay, let's continue. You can't continue something that started by night as din. Don't have din by night. It's not like, okay, we accepted all the Eidus by night. Let's go weiter. We have to now listen to Eidus. So what do we do now? Says Rabi Akiva, I'm starting the wrong way around. No, the right way around. Says Rabbi Talfon, you have to have people that are Eidim. You have to now split. You have to, who wants to be the aid? Who wants to be the aid? Yeah, from the whole team. You and you are going to be the Eidim. Very nice. The others will be the Yonim. Can't have an aid that will also be a Dayan later on. They'll stay Eidim till the end of the show. They'll stay the Yonim till the end of the show. Why? At the end of the day, it's Zeres HaKosuv, according to Rabbi Tarfon. And also, we saw a reason which we, by the way, some Rishonim do believe that reason is right, because it's Eidus She'etechol Azima. Although we had a big reservation about it, You cannot be an aid and then Dayan, because once you sit and be a Dayan, nobody can disqualify you and tell you, Dayan, you were a liar when you stood there by the Adim's podium, right? We had a question about it, but that's another reason. Now, says Rabi Akiva, no, even that's not good. Says Rabi Akiva, no way. The mere fact that they saw it happening, everyone, each and every one of the 23 is completely, finally disqualified for judging the whole case, as long as it's dinei nefoshes. Why? First of all, there's a kosuv. Secondly, a reason. What's the reason? If you saw it happening, you know too much. You cannot see it tzad zchus. You cannot see the guy here as maybe right, maybe wrong, because you really know he's wrong. We want to have a system where the Dayanim see both ways, especially in dinei nefoshes. We want to get him off the hook. We want to get him off the execution. Yeah. And Mimela, we say, give him a chance by dafka having other people made. Who are the other people? The same Dayanim. But those same Dayanim cannot be the Dayanim. Those Dayanim, since they saw it, they're now doomed forever. But for this case, they are what? Only Eidim. They should go from Bechemesh. No, in Bechemesh there's no murder. They should go from Ramle, when there was a murder, should go to a different Beis Din in Ashkelon. And there they should be made to other Dayanim. Because those Dayanim should have clear, like a, not a clean slate, yeah, like a clean slate about the guy. They don't know anything about him. You know, it's like they're unhealthy that the teacher, the first day of the year, already knows the history of all the bad kids in the class. It's basically the worst thing you can do for a child. Give him a fresh start, a new Beis Din. Those will be the Eidim. The Eidim will say to the Dayanim. That's Rabbi Akiva. That's the Gadol summarizing a lot of a very, very big sugya of Eid Nasa Dayan. Baruch Rins today. Back to the Talmudic, the Talmud Bavli text. We are now about 5 or 6 lines from the narrow lines. For the last narrow line, yeah, count about 6 or so lines. Another answer, much simpler answer, how to interpret the words of who? Of Rabbi Yehuda Nossi about him and Rabbi Yossi Aglili. This is what he told the guy who punched the nose, the ear. There's me who believes in the svar of Rabbi Yossi Aglili, the Omer Monetzuri, which means he never said that he saw it. What was the whole eruption of the volcano now? We thought that Rabbi Yehuda Nossi said, I saw you and I saw and I'll judge you. That's open a whole Pandora box. You saw and you judge. Now I'm saying, calm down. He never said that. You misinterpret his words. All he said was, there is me. I'm a rabbi, and I hold like a different rabbi, like a Rav of today. Like Rav Chash will tell you, I'm Rav Chash. I hold of Moshe Feinstein, and therefore, you have to be toivel your Kelly in the hotel, whatever, psak, yeah? So that's all he said. Veho, Sahadi de Masadibach. There are other Eidim. He's not an Eid. Happens to be there are 2 Eidim, yeah, Shmerel and Kugel, 2 Eidim who come and they're made in you. Zil, Havle Monetzuri, go and pay Monetzuri. That's all. Life is simple. Nobody's trying to mix over here that in the Dayan. I'm a Poisek Halacha. I am backed by an older, wiser Poisek Halacha. And happens to be, you also have 2 Eidim, starts making his ear. And I hold that the amount you should pay is not Uganda dollar, it's a Canadian dollar, US dollar, a lot of money. Give him Monetzuri times 8. Frag the Gemara now, the Rabi Akiva, back to Eid Nasa Dayan. The Rabi Akiva, then Eid Nasa Dayan? Is that so? The Rabi Akiva believes that an Eid cannot be a Dayan? Is that so? Please, I'll check the halacha. I mean, halacha in the Rambam. You know, these things are not in Shulchan Aruch, because it's not halacha today. Please, I hope you remember in the Rambam. Do we say en Eid Nasa Dayan? Is that so according to Rabi Akiva? V'atanya, I'll show you a brisa that proves otherwise. Everybody that's ever read a courtroom drama or saw courtroom drama, what's the big story? That what do? You make sure to that the evidence disappears. Yeah, the evidence. How do you say it in English? Yeah, you make sure that the evidence vanishes. Yeah, you la'alim rayot. Yeah, you make sure there's no evidence. No evidence. There's no knife, no stone, no this. I didn't do it. Yeah, the lawyer of the other said knife, no this, no body, no, yeah. So we're going to talk about it now. What happens if you don't have evidence in Beis Din? Yeah, the guy is claimed that he threw a big rock on someone's head, Rahman al-Islam, and now there's no rock. Nobody can see the rock here in Beis Din. Do we actually have to have the rock here? Not the rock of Gibraltar, smaller rock. Do we have to have the rock in Beis Din so we know that this rock actually was thrown on the guy? And by the way, before we continue, I'm not chas v'shalom learning my Torah from the courtroom drama. There's a big question in halacha. As we know, the guy who's assumed to be a murderer, who's accused of being a murderer, we're treating with kids' gloves, halachically. Now, let's say the stone that he's claimed to have killed the other guy is a cute little pebble. Yeah, and we know the guy died, but from such a pebble thrown from 4 meters away, nobody dies from that. He died. He died. Listen to this. I know some people will find it hard to accept, but that's halacha. If he died from such a tiny little pebble, and I just threw a pebble at him, it's not nice, I'm violent, Haredi from B'Shemesh, and the guy was saying kfira, whatever. I threw a little pebble like that. Nobody dies from such a tiny pebble from 4 meters away, right? Elamai must be this guy is super weak. He's like so weak. He had very hard heart condition. He dies from every tiny thing. Is it still his fault? No. In this case, we say we don't execute the guy. It's like shaygeg. I wouldn't expect that such a tiny pebble would actually kill a guy, and he threw it on his big stomach. Which guy with a big belly, you throw a tiny pebble at him, he dies? That's out of the normal. In such a case, the alleged murderer would be off the hook. We're not learning Sanhedrin now, so please leave it alone. Just accept it now as the area of shaygeg / anus, because by Retzicha we don't say Odamod Lo'ilam, right? Yaakov, here we say maybe it's a shaygeg, b'chulei. So now we have to see the stone. Everybody, the 2 Eidim come, we saw him throwing the stone at Yaron, and Yaron died. How big was the stone? I want to see the stone, says the Dayanim. That's basically the story they're about to read, to learn, and we'll see how that reflects also on Eden Nasadai. Bezos Hashem. Batanya. It says in the Torah about Ritzicha or about a delayed Ritzicha. It says there, somebody hit his friend, somebody smote his friend, be'even or be'egroi, with a stone or with a fist. Now, the Torah, as you know, doesn't just get descriptive. This is not a thriller story here. No, the stone or a fist. Why does the Torah have to go into details about stone or a fist? What's the story? Shimon Teimani Omer. Shimon the Teimani. What does he say? First 5 line. Why does the Torah actually enumerate and it speaks out of stone or a fist? Omer like this. Ma egrof meyuchad. Just like egrof is unique. Shemoser le'eda ve'la'edim. Listen carefully to my translation. Just like the fist is unique in the fact that its muscle can be seen by both Eida. Who's Eida? Not a girl. Eida is the Dayanim. Eida, congregation, the Dayanim, the 23 people. Vela Eidim. And the Eidim also saw it, which means a guy comes to Beis Din see the guy. They can see how fit he is. They can even ask him to do some exercise. They see if the guy is the Jewish Schwarzenegger, or the guy is a little Avrech who can't pick up a pen. They can see the size and ability, more or less, of his egrof. Just like the fist, the egrof can be seen. So too the stone has to be seen by the Eida and the Eidim. In other words, Shimon HaTeimani says, Lahavdil, as far as I know, I think, like the Goyish court. In other words, the Yonim themselves have to see the stone that you claim that he threw the rock that you claim that was thrown on the victim. The Beis Din has to see that stone, but excluding the Shiot, the Eidim. If the Eidim lost it, the Eidim said, he made the evidence disappear. The evidence has vanished. The Eidim says, we don't have the stone. In that case, you don't judge him. Says Shimon HaTeimani, the evidence is lost. The evidence was disappeared. We don't know how. The Eidim lost it on the way to Beis Din. Maybe somebody made sure to lose it. So there's no court case. Case dismissed, he goes home. Says Shimon HaTeimani, Amar Rabi Akiva, ma pitor. Rabi Akiva is going to give him who. Rabi Akiva strongly disagrees with Shimon HaTeimani. Amar Rabi Akiva, was the actual hit in front of Beis Din? Shiodim b'mehi kau. Do they know how he hit him? If you want Beis Din to see the size of the stone, There's no end to it. Do they actually see the event happening, that they know how he hit him? The al ma hikahu? Do they know also on what, meaning on which body part did he hit him? Imal shoykoi, maybe hit him on the hip. Last time I checked, somebody hit on the hip, doesn't die. Maybe a very strong hit on the hip, goes to hospital, but he died from a broken hip. People break the hips. Yeah. Or tzipor nafshoy. Maybe hit him. Tzipor nafshoy means the soft part. Tzipor nefesh in modern Hebrew means something else. We don't have time for that. Tzipor nafshoy on the soft part by the heart, here, by the middle of the chest. There, it's very easy to kill the person. Do you know if the location of the strike was logical or not? They didn't see that either. I'll give you more. Let's say the murderer, the alleged murderer, the accused murderer is accused of pushing his friend off the roof or off of a high bira, a palace, the chosh of a building. Would Beis Din go to the bira? Are you matriach Beis Din to go all the way to Tel Aviv? A lot of skyscrapers over there. I know Americans, don't laugh. We call them skyscrapers, okay, in Tel Aviv. Okay, so now you went to a skyscraper in Tel Aviv, you have to measure, Beis Din go to measure if this is a real skyscraper or not, a person can die or not. Beis Din are not going to go to that building to see if it's high enough to die or not, or maybe sarcastically says, is the building going to come to Beis Din? In other words, Beis Din anyhow don't see the whole story. They don't see with their own eyes the height of the building. Was it really high enough to die from or not high enough to die from? Another question, in Noflo, let's say you say, yeah, they go to Israeli, they go to the building. Let's say the building fell. Let's say the Russian army bombarded the building. Noflo, we're going to rebuild it. It's all ridiculous ideas, says Rabi Akiva. I'm not saying it. Yeah, Ella, but how do we overcome all these problems of Beis Din not being there? But it's a very simple solution. It's called Edim. Ella, ma egruf miyuchot shemosor le'edim, just like the fist itself, boom, the size, the strength of the fist and the location and everything was seen by the Edim, and we fully trust them. Of course, shemosor le'edim. So too, all other conditions and background information about the height and the shmite and the size and the bias and all that is fully trusted to be by the Eidim, to be given by the Eidim. Prat, which means if the Eidim actually saw somebody throwing a rock at his friend, they saw him throwing, and they right away, being very conscious and conscientious, they saw the guy dead, but they didn't exactly see the stone. The guy himself, the murderer, is smart. He right away took the stone and threw it to the ocean. So they didn't actually see the stone very clearly. He right away, the murderer, after hitting, hit and run. He threw it to the sea. They didn't actually see exactly the size of the stone. That's a different story. If the Eidim are missing one piece of information, they didn't exactly see that the hit was up close up. They didn't see there was a real lethal hit. Then it's actually shortcoming in the Eidus. That's a different story. So says Rabi Akiva, unlike Shimon HaTeimoni, I fully trust the Eidim. What does that have to do with Eid Nasa Dayan? That's what the end of the Brisa. Now comes the Gemara to derive something from the Brisa. Chtani Nihas. Nihas is like at the end of the day, we can actually derive something out of here. Let's quote one line from the discussion of Rabi Akiva and Rabbi Shimon Teimoni. Rabbi Akiva says, did the murderer hit his friend in front of Beis Din with a smack in the face and the heart? Did they know how the actual hit was? Sounds like, says the Gemara, it sounds like if the Dayanim themselves would have seen the actual hit, that would be good. Yeah? Rabbi Akiva says, is that what happened? Did we have the ideal picture of them themselves seeing the hit? Mashma, that if the Yonim see the actual murder, that's good and nice and fine and dandy. That's not true. Rabbi Akiva said that if Eidim see it up close, they're disqualified for life about this court case. Answers the Gemara, very easy. The Dvor of the Rabbi Shimon HaTeimoni ka'omar, the lay loy svira lay. Yeah, Shlomo understands. Now that Shimon HaTeimoni says, no, Rabbi Akiva doesn't say what he thinks. Rabbi Akiva says, according to you, Rabbi Shimon, that's what should have happened. I, Rabbi Akiva, I am a complete koifer in Eidim and Dayanim, mixing the different authorities. I believe in boundaries. Rabbi Akiva, Eid is an Eid and a Dayan is a Dayan, and that's the way it should be. You, Shimon at money, I'm trying to play your game and show you how absurd what you're saying is. Yeah, you argue with a very liberal, far-off leftist, you know, if you want to kill all the babies, we also kill the people. Doesn't mean that I think it's good to kill babies. I'm talking Lafi his shita. Yeah, same thing lavdil that the Noam Roim say. According to you, that's what's going to happen. Look how absurd your words are. Doesn't mean that I believe in it at all, says Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva sticks to his guns. Rabbi Akiva sticks to the gun, but not to the gun of the murderer. Rabbi Akiva says an aid is an aid. Once he saw, can't be a Dayan. He's too much in the story. Baruch Hashem. Thank you very, very much. Question and comments are welcome now. Thank you very much. Have a great week and Atzlocha Rabba b'chol inyonim.